Hello, YouTube. I'm just waiting for my TikTok to turn up, my TikTok people. If I ever get my button gear, I might figure out how to delete this initial part while I'm waiting for the TikTok people. I just don't know anything about YouTube or editing or anything. Okay. Hello. Francesca Perez. I think I recognize Brenda Hunt. You've been here before. Maggie, I think you've been here before. Michelle Holder, I think you've been here before. Maggie. I don't recognize that. And I can't read that. Me again, Brenda Hunt. Yeah. Getting to know the names. Kayla. Hi, Kayla. Anyway, while we're waiting, I'd love to know where you're from. I'm here in Vancouver, Canada, and it's a gorgeous sunny day. I'm going to get my button gear and go to the gym soon. I'll do that after this. Usually I go to the gym first thing in the morning, depends what's going on in life. Didn't get there this morning, so. And I have a very specific routine. I have days I like working out and days I don't, depending on what exercises I'm doing. Minnesota, excellent. You know, I don't want to always say this, but I always think of Mary Tyler Moore. I love that show. I grew up with that because, I'm in my 60s. I was born in 1960, so Mary Tyler Moore show was probably the 70s, I guess. Marine City, Michigan. I can see Canada from here. Oh, interesting. Detroit. So is that near Detroit? Marine City, Michigan. I'm just curious. I understand that with the lakes and that, I don't know how they work with customs and the border. Like, can't you just get on a boat and row across to the other country? I don't understand that. I don't think they're going to machine gun you down if they see you doing that. Like, I don't know how that works. Oops, Marine Sim, just looking it up, I'm curious. Wow, oh, okay. Interesting, okay. St. Clair River, yeah. Can't you just boat across? I don't get that, okay. Iconic, Chicago, Illinois. Hi, Chicago. Nova Scotia, hello. Yeah, there's so much border control. I would think so. Hi, Arkansas. I've got a lot of clients who are Southerners. Love that accent. I pick it up really quickly. So I got to watch myself because I'm worried. I always warn people that I might sound like I'm mocking you, but I just pick up a Southern accent like crazy. I lived in Australia for 20 years, never picked up an Aussie accent. All the slang, of course, but never. But boy, you put me on a call with a Southerner and I'll be talking like that the rest of the day. It's bizarre. It's not because I like it more. I love the Australian accent, although I can't hear it anymore, but I just never picked it up. It's bizarre. Yorkshire, UK, hello. Okay, I'm going to get going now. If you look in the link above, you can see everything I've got to offer, my free behavior board and my courses and my coaching. It's just done that. That's the free, not free, and then most expensive is the coaching, the one-on-one stuff, obviously. Okay, if you're interested. Never been a parent, but enjoy your content. A lot of this is just basic life advice too, right? Like it's just, especially when I talk about things like apologizing and giving respect to get it. And, but yeah, you want to treat people as you want to be treated. It was funny, I was talking to someone years ago and I can't remember the situation, but they confronted me on something they didn't like. What was it? I didn't go on about something. They were one of those, we're not friends anymore, obviously, but they're one of those that is always trying to impress, and money never impresses me. It just never has. And my mom used to always say that. Like people without substance tend to rely on impressing other people with money, right? It's just the way it is. And I always remembered that. Anyway, she wasn't impressed with it. So this friend had money and kept buying things. And I was never impressed. She goes, don't you ever want to you never go on about my new car and all that. And I said, well, I treat everyone like I want to be treated. I wouldn't want people to go on about my wealth. You know what I mean? I don't have wealth, but you know what I'm saying? So yeah, treat other people as you want to be treated. And if they don't like it, then they're not your people anyway. But, yeah, I never want to be impressed. People never want to be impressed. They want to have fun. Okay. They want to have fun. And they don't want to feel good about you. They want to feel good about themselves and you. It's not just all about you, but yeah, a lot of people are, I don't have any of those people in my life anymore. So you get old, you can just cull people that don't bring you joy. You're allowed to do that when you get old. You get wrinkles, sags, but you can cull people you don't like. I didn't mean cull, I meant cull, like getting rid of them. Hi from Denmark. Love Bratbusters. I'm a big fan of your work. Thanks so much for that. I appreciate the support. Um, okay. I have a super busy 2-year-old. What's the best way to keep her bouncing off the walls? Well, I don't have a perfect answer for you, but I'll tell you how I always recommend you manage toddlers. Is about 3 things in there. The first one is two really easy. One is you completely childproof your whole house. Okay, so there's nothing from the waist down they can get into. Therefore, it's not a negative environment. You're never saying, no, don't touch that. No, 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 no. Whereas I never had to do that with my kids. There was literally nothing they could get into. The second thing I recommend is a toy rotation system. So you get that in place and they're never really bored. You're always rotating everything around. You only do that about once a week, maybe at the most. You rotate stuff around. So they only have a few things out at any given time. Even though they know that other toy that they haven't seen in a week or a month or whatever, they still tend to play with it almost like it's new. Because they haven't seen it in a while. That's exciting again. So that's why you kind of keep them interested. The third thing I recommend is play with them, get them started. Like if it's Play-Doh or something, I used to make all the Play-Doh with my kids and then it was an activity and we'd sit and that's what we do all afternoon. So if I was cooking, I might make Play-Doh and they'd be sitting at the kitchen table playing and every so often I'd go over there and make something with them. And, but yeah, enter their world. The more you do that, you enter their world and you show them how to play on their level, the more likely they are to learn how to play independently because you've shown them how it's done. A lot of people just throw toys at their toddlers and they just expect them to figure it out. Sometimes you have to show them different ways of doing things and, you know. Yeah, I have an emotional 5-year-old. He cries for almost anything. How can I help him? So he's emotionally unstable is what you're saying. Everything upsets him. He's highly sensitive. He might just be more sensitive kids, but generally the stronger of a leader you are, the less likely they are to be like that. So if you're a really strong leader, they just feel more safe, more secure, more level, more emotionally stable, more validated. It's all just, it's good for their mental health when you're a leader because they just feel safe. It's just a different thing. So work on your leadership skills. You maybe already be a great leader. I don't know. It could be something else, but that's my quick TikTok answer for that question. I actually got some questions here on YouTube. I'm not really on YouTube, but I film these on there to save them. Okay. Okay, it's from Jessica Batson. Hi, how to correct a 2-year-old that laughs and runs when you try to get him to stop doing something or you're trying to take toy away that he has took from his baby brother. I usually just run behind him, tell him no, get the toy and give it back to his baby brother. That's about all you can do, but toddlers are all about consistent corrective actions. So you just have to do it many times, but he likes the chase. I would watch him like a hawk and like you're just going to have to make it something that you're going to do like a job. It might take 2 days. It might take 7 days. So just completely commit a whole weekend to this. And every time he takes something, you say no, and then you give it back to the little brother. But you got to watch him like a hawk. It takes time. He'll eventually learn that if I do that, and also I would actually take something else away from him too. So he's just 2. I wonder how much he is. Like, is he 2.5 or just turned 2? If he's 2.5 to almost 3 years old, I would actually say no, and you're going to have to come with me for a few minutes. So he just has to sit beside you while you're, I don't know, doing some work or something. So it's not a timeout because you're right there with them. I hate timeout. You're right there with them. And you don't discuss what they did wrong when you're doing that with them. So yeah, I would make sure he couldn't be a part of the fun for a few minutes, but you're with him. Timeout is when you send them away. And also then you keep talking about all the negative. I hate that stuff. Almost 3 in August. Oh, okay. Yeah. If he's almost 3, okay, that's different. Use my behavior board. It's free on my little link I have. Oh, you don't have it there. Check out I didn't put the link on YouTube yet. Anyway, just go to my website and my free behavior board's on there. Or if you want, I also have a course, or if you want to hire me, whatever. But the free behavior board, you just put no taking toys away from your younger brother and or younger sibling. If he does, you say, okay, here's the consequence. So there is literally a consequence if he does. He has to let his younger brother play with his favorite toy for a whole hour or something like that. A 1-year-old's not going to do that, maybe 5 minutes. So he has to give up his absolute favorite toy that his 1-year-old brother never gets, and he has to sit and watch him play with it for 5 minutes. So that's what I would do. If they're almost 3 years old, like he's so close to 3, put him on the behavior board. You're on it too. That's what makes it work. Okay. I knew this was going to happen. I'm just going to vent a little bit. I did a video yesterday that I thought was one of the best videos I've ever done. And I told you this. I said that. And I said, well, not just you. You're not that many people watching. But I can get like millions of views on a video. And it's never one that I think's that great. It's bizarre. But this one that I did yesterday, um, it was one of my best, and of course it go viral. I mean, it didn't take off at all. And I said that the ones that I think are going to take off never do. The ones that I think, well, this isn't very good, they just take off. Anyway, the video that I did, and I just want to point it out, and I'd like you to look at it. And it is how to get respect with it. Yeah, it's only got like 7,000 views. So how to get respect with your toddler. If you have a toddler, check that out after this live. That was one of the best, and I don't plan anything before I do it. I just get on here and start talking. So I just came up with a couple of things I've never said before about toddlers, and I thought I'm gonna have to put that somewhere else too, because it informed me. Anyway, check that out afterwards. It's how to get respect with your toddler. I don't necessarily want that. Well, I do want that video to take off. There's other ones I'm going, who cares about that? But it's bizarre. I can't figure out what's going to take off at all. Not that I want them all to take off, but I do want to share that information. So I'm going to keep talking about that. Oh, all the wiles of trying to figure out viewers and all that. No one can really do it. And okay, my daughter with ADHD is on meds, but still continues to hit, slap at daycare. I don't know what to do. How old? I don't know how old. And I don't discuss medication because I'm not a doctor, so I won't discuss that. But yeah, tell me how old, Danielle. 2.5-year-old screams all the time. She has the words, but is constantly fighting with her 4-year-old sister. Oh my goodness, I feel a lecture coming on. 2-year-olds may have the words, but it's not their language. Their language is all yelling, screaming. That's their power. Is there power in words, or is it screaming and hitting and physical stuff? Think about it. Where is their power? Is it words? No. Do you want it to be? Maybe. It's not words. So when you said knows the word so, that doesn't mean anything to me. Nothing. I'm like, why on earth would they use their words if the power is in yelling and screaming? That is their power. So that's why she's doing that. She hits and slaps at daycare. There's nothing you can do about that. You got to work on everything at home, because you can't go into daycare and stop that. That's up to them to sort of keep the other kids safe. But you set yourself, I don't know how old she is. You said daycare. How old is she? It's usually something, if it is physical, the daycare workers can usually help with that. But the only thing you can do is work at your parenting at home. You never tell anyone else how to handle your kid. That's their lane, their place. You let them deal with it, how they deal with it. But yeah, set yourself up as a leader. Even with a toddler, you can get them out of stuff like that. You just say no every single time they hit. It's consistent corrective actions. It is not words. That's not their world. Their world is not words. It's actions. So you fight actions with actions. You see what I mean? Everyone wants these mini therapy sessions with toddlers. I know they're trendy. That's my nemesis in my business, is erasing all the damage done by all that. It's just ridiculous. Yeah, you relate to them in their world, not yours. Don't expect a toddler to find their inner adult. You find your inner toddler and relate to them in their world. That's respectful communication. Every time I see an adult saying to a little one, use your words, I'm like, what a patronizing, condescending, nasty thing to say to a little child. I just think it's awful. Use your words. In other words, your style of communication isn't good enough. Use my style. Find your inner adult. I know it's trendy, but God, I hate all that crap. It's just garbage. I've been doing this. I'm in my 60s. I've been doing this for so many years now. It's just, and this is my nemesis. And all this mini therapy session stuff, talking about big emotions, big words, getting down their level, talking to them, asking them to use their words, all that stuff comes from the please your parents style. That's so trendy right now, and it's only for you. It's nothing to do with your kids. It's just for you, not your children. I just watched it, and you were right. My daughter is 5 and autistic, but this did work. So you mean that video that I thought was so fantastic that hardly any people looked at? And I never say that. You never hear me brag about my videos. I just don't, because I don't think I'm that hot. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I just wouldn't brag about it. But that is a really valuable video. So I'm going to feed off of that one. Wait, I'm going to write that down. And I'm going to drive that home. Drive home last video. Okay. By the way, I am prone to bragging. Sometimes, look, hear me out. I've got this habit. Everyone has like personal quirks. So I tend to brag. It's usually about fitness. so anyway, but it's gotten to be hilarious now, because every single time I brag about something, oh yes, I'm really good at that. Guaranteed, I will end up making an absolute fool out of myself. And I even have friends who say, Lisa, you just bragged, you know darn well you're going to fall on your face next time. Like it's gotten to be a joke. So yes, I'm really good at that. And that it always, always, always slaps me in the face. It's like, I know what's going to happen. Why do I keep doing that? I'll tell you a funny story. Years ago, my daughter was in dance class. It was a very small school, and the owner used to teach the dance classes. And it was all open. The moms were right in the same room on chairs so they could hear everything. So I was talking away, and I was talking about being a sewer. I sew, right? And I kind of been secretive about it because I never want to be asked to sew. It's like a plumber being asked to unplug your toilet. Like, you just don't do that to sewers. So anyway, I'm talking to another mom, and she just started sewing. Well, I've been sewing forever. So she's asking me questions, and she goes, so how well can you sew? Here's what I said. I said, well, I'm pretty good. I'm practically a seamstress. Stupid, stupid, stupid thing to say. For one thing, it sounds arrogant and ridiculous. Anyway, here's the funny part. The owner of the dance school, who's also teaching all of our kids, as soon as I said I'm practically a seamstress, she went like this. I was sewing for 8 years, costume after costume after costume, hundreds of costumes, because I bragged, you see? Anyway, lesson learned. No lesson. I never learned my lesson. I still do it. I don't know why I do that. Dumb, dumb, dumb. But yeah, you should have seen the look on her face. I thought, I instantly knew what I'd done wrong. Okay, because you believe strongly about the videos you make. Yeah, that's why I'm bragging about that one video. The rest of them, no. But that one, I just came up with new information, and I thought it's just different from the way I usually talk about toddlers. It's about entering their world. The more fun you are in their world, the more likely they are to listen to you and to want to be around you, want to please you. That's the basis of that. So I'm going to get more into that. I'm going to feed off of that video for months. Okay. It just opened up my mind and I already know all this stuff. I just don't talk about everything I know, but that was something that was really important. Okay. Should 3-year-olds apologize for hitting? Why? Yeah, I don't get that. Apologies never solved anything. Yeah, sometimes, not because they're usually done wrong. I have a little bit of a strong opinion about that. Here's how you it's not how you would deal with a 3-year-old who hits. If they hit, they have to do something nice for that person. Put that on the behavior board, or you can buy my course, or I actually have a mini course. Like, I have a bigger course, but I have a mini course about toddlers who hit, 1 to 3-year-olds. I don't call a 3-year-old a toddler, but it sort of goes in that framework. So yeah, who hit. And it's consistent corrective actions. There has to be a consequence. Saying they're sorry does not bother them. There's no lesson learned there. Sorry, they hit again. Sorry, they hit again. There's no lesson learned there. It's about consequences. Now, I'm going to give you a very good example of this. Let's say that you speed and the cop pulls you over and he says, say you're sorry, and that's it. Would you continue speeding? Think about it. If you're not accountable, there's no consequence. Wouldn't you keep speeding? It's the same thing. So think about it. Think it through. The word sorry, you can hear, there's 4 steps to apologizing, but you do not do this with a 3-year-old. As they get older, I'd say, 6, 7, 8 years old, you can start this up. And it's good for adults too. 4 steps to a good apology. You say sorry. I don't really care about it. It's overused. I know I murdered your whole family. I said, I'm sorry. Oh, you're not very forgiving, are you? Like, it's just so overused. The word sorry is just, it means nothing to me. Anyway, obviously I've got a history with that. So the word sorry means nothing to me, but you started off saying sorry. The second step is say it was all my fault. Do not say, I wouldn't have done that if you hadn't blah, blah, blah. So blaming the other person. So say you're sorry, then be 100% accountable for your mistake. The third one is super important. Make amends. Say, what can I do to make it up to you? And then offer something. Like, if I was ever late, which I never am, but if I'm ever late, like, I respect people too much to keep them waiting. If I'm ever late, I would say, hey, really sorry about that. How about I buy the ticket to the movie or something? Really sorry about that. And then you don't keep doing it. It's the repetition that makes all that apology mean sorry, and then they hit again. Sorry, they hit again. Like, it just means nothing. So think about that. But yeah, there has to be a consequence, or else there's no lesson. I'll tell you a cute story. My son was about, I don't know, really little. And there was a neighbor the exact same age. So the mom and I were only friends through our little boys, but she was a very sweet lady. But her little boy turned out to be he was kicked out of every school in high school. He turned out to be a horrible bully. Not surprisingly, He loved to hit, and my kid never defended himself. So I ended up, I had to stop seeing her. She always said to him, say you're sorry, and he'd go, sorry, and then he'd hit again. That's all she ever said, say you're sorry. She didn't know how to deal with him. That's why he ended up being kicked out of all the schools. He had a reputation in several districts to be the biggest bully they'd ever seen. It was horrible. Okay, because that's all he ever said, sorry, and then he just keep doing it. Like the word sorry was all he ever had to do. Okay. Well, you already answered your own question. CC 1231. When my 2-year-old flails in tantrum, do I communicate? How do I communicate with her? You do not. You completely ignore tantrums. I've done a million videos on that. Just look up Bratbusters tantrums and read all the comments. They're all hates, and that's fine by me. But you completely ignore a tantrum because they've gone into the crazy zone. You're calm as anything, filing your nails, just waiting for them to finish. As soon as they finish, you might say, "Oh, you all done? You want to go to the park? Want to read a book?" You reward the calm, not the crazy. They will soon learn, wait a minute, this crazy is getting me no attention. It just minimizes I have to look at it. It decreases. Why can't I remember this? You know, my regulars know I can never remember this. Someone else had to help me with the word duration. When you ignore tantrums, you are decreasing the duration, the frequency, and the intensity. They'll eventually just stop happening. So, but yeah, it's all this attention that you're giving tantrums. You do not need to validate a tantrum. Do not get that through your head. You do not need to validate every single thought, feeling, fart, and burp that every kid does. They have to learn sometimes you're not going to get any attention for this behavior. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, you don't have to validate everything. If you do, and I know it's really trendy to do that, validate every single thought, feeling, burp, and fart, and it's just ridiculous. But anyway, they're going to grow up into self-entitled snowflakes with mental health issues. That's always what I say. I'm exaggerating, but that's basically what I'm thinking whenever I hear this. Well, you have to validate every single thought and feeling. This is what you're going to raise. They're teenagers. They get on, you didn't validate my feelings. I'm just the bus driver, lady. Like, they're just so self-entitled and so roll out the red carpet everywhere I go because they expect everything to be validated. It's okay to prepare them for real life. If I was yelling and screaming and acting like an idiot, I wouldn't expect people to talk to me. I'd expect them to be like this. Maybe call the police. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's, yeah. So, yeah. What kind of consequence? For what? For what? Tantrums? There's no tantrums. There's no consequence. I don't know what you're talking about, what you're referring to about the consequence. So let me know. Because tantrums, obviously, you don't. There's no consequence for that. You never discuss a tantrum before, during, or after. They are to be ignored. They are unwanted craziness. And the better you get at ignoring them, the quicker they end. And if they're used to getting attention and rewarded for having attention is tantrum food. You are rewarding it when you give it attention, for sure. If you do that, they're going to be, if you start ignoring, they're going to get worse before they get better because they remember the old you that used to feed the tantrums. So you got to be willing to go through that storm to get to the rainbow. All my clients, when they hire me, want the rainbow. But I say, you ready to go through the storm? Because it's going to get ugly. But it's worth it. Okay. I don't say that to everyone. I don't want to scare everybody. Okay. Jessica, will this video be saved to YouTube? Yeah, all these are just lives. So these, like I'm doing this live right now. So it's all saved on here. My audience is on TikTok but I can't say, never mind. Yeah, it's on there. They get no reward from you and they knock it up. They just do. They just do. It's just the way it is. I'll tell you a story. It's one of my favorite stories, but it's not the best one, but it's one of my favorites because it sort of drives home how I feel about all this. My son was about 3 and it was his second to last tantrum and he was in a mall, really busy, loud mall. So I could do this because it wasn't disturbing people. Nothing had happened. We had not been talking. He wasn't tired. He wasn't hungry. He just threw a tantrum. I have no idea why, nor did I care. So he starts throwing a tantrum. I dragged him off to the wall because he was near stairs. Dragged him off to the wall, and I pulled out my nail file. This was me. The whole time he's having a tantrum, this was me. I'm not looking at him. I'm literally just filing my nails, just like this, waiting. I might look down his way every so often, but he already knew this. He already knew I'm right there. I'm not on my phone. I'm not talking to people. I'm not having conversations with people because that's dismissive and rude. I want him to see me knowing he's doing that, but this is what he's getting for it. You see? This is how I'm reacting to his tantrum. I'm not. Anyway, that's the whole point. This is the good part though. All these young moms were walking past and coming up to me. Oh, You should give him a hug and talk about his feelings. I'm like, oh crap. Anyway, keep going, keep going. They didn't know what they were talking about. Anyway, these grandparents and old parents with older kids kept coming up to me. Good on you. You know what you're doing. They had experience. Who are you going to listen to? Who are you going to listen to? The experienced ones or the newbies who want to discuss all the big feelings, all the big emotions? They want to have the mini therapy session during a tantrum. Who are you going to listen to? So I already knew what I was doing. I had tons of experience with kids before I had my own. So I knew what I was doing. Anyway, that was his second, and he didn't even last that long. And then when he finished, he gets up and I go, oh, you all done? Okay, let's go. And that was it. He only had one more tantrum and it was a pretty small. No, that one was a big one. I never really told that story. It was a dilly. That was his very last tantrum ever. It's a long story. I should just do a video on it. It's a good one. Okay. His last tantrum. His last stand. Wasn't my finest hour. I have told that story, actually. Wasn't my finest parenting moment, but I'm human. That's why I like it so much, because it shows we all mess up sometimes. It wasn't pretty. It got real ugly. I did everything wrong. Not everything, but I did a lot wrong in that one. No, I'm sorry. That is not how I was raised, and I raised my daughter the same way I was. Don't know what you mean by that. Okay. Okay. If I get on to my 18-month-old and he starts crying, if you get on, I don't know what you mean by that. So he's done something wrong and you say no to him and he just starts crying. I got too many answers in my head. Like I don't quite know what direction to go with that one. If you get onto him, let me know. Did you take a toy, something away that he got into that he wasn't supposed to have? I would never have had that problem because my house was completely childproof. So I prevented that. I prevented as many scenes as possible from ever happening. But if I saw them going into a storm, I would welcome it. Every tantrum, every scene, every fit is your opportunity to exercise your leadership. But yeah, I didn't want to have to be chasing them around the house. I just wanted to be able to relax when we were home. And then my kids weren't used to getting in. They weren't used to being precocious at home. So when we went out, they didn't tend to get into stuff either. So just makes your life so much easier. Do you work with families with high functioning autistic children? Yep, I do. Yeah. But I'm not a specialist with that. It is a specialty, but I teach parent-child relationships. So it doesn't matter what's going on with your kid. But it is more of a specialty with autistic children, and it's not just one session, although some people like to just take me up for a test drive before they sign up for more. But anyway, that's fine. Anyway, we're throwing mud at the wall in the first session. I got to find out a lot of history, what did work, what didn't work, what are your strengths and weaknesses. Then we throw mud at the wall, trying a bunch of different things. It's usually about systems and habits and getting structure set up. We see and then the next week we see what did and what didn't work. Sometimes something didn't work, but I'll identify it was still a good idea. It's just the kids fighting it. So yeah, I don't know. Anyway, that's more. I don't discuss autism on here. It's a coaching thing. Okay. Yeah, like if he's touching. Okay, this was the 18-month-old, I think, Jesse. Yeah, like if he's touching something he shouldn't, such as a gaming consoles or wall heater. Okay, the wall heater. There's not much you can do about that. They're touching something. You say no. You might want to redirect. They're 18 months old. You say no, and then you go over. Here's a book. Or something like that. So you're redirecting more so, but you do say no, and it's a consistent corrective actions. You are taking them away from that. You take the gaming control away from them. So you take stuff away, and then you might say, here's a book, or give them something else to do. Plus, if they got enough to do, are you doing a toy rotation system to keep their focus, to keep them entertained? If not, they're looking at the same toys. Parents say this to me all the time. Well, not the ones who watch a lot of my videos, but if they're new and some people are just referred by other people, haven't even seen me yet. So they'll hire me and I'll say, are you doing the toy rotation system? And they say, what do you mean by that? But then they'll say, look, they should never be bored. They got a million toys. That's why they're bored. They got too much in front of them. They're overstimulated, overwhelmed. You look at classrooms and how they run daycares, etc. They don't throw everything in the middle of the floor and say, have at it. They say, now it's time for this. They're going to pull something out, play with it. Then they have to pack that up before they get the next thing. That's kind of how I ran my house. And the kids really, they only both said they were bored once in their whole life. They were probably about 3 or 4, and they must have been, or maybe older, they must have been, I think they were older actually, they must have seen a friend say it because they'd never spoken in this tone of voice to me before. My son was older. He said it first. He said, I'm bored, in that snotty, whiny tone. I'd never heard that tone before. So not from him. So I said, "Oh, my precious angel, are you bored? I feel so bad." He instantly looked scared because he knew that tone of voice. You can't manipulate me, buddy boy. Anyway, so I said, "Come with mommy." And he was like, I had to drag him almost. He's like, "Uh-oh, I'm in trouble." So I filled up a mop bucket and gave him a mop. He never was bored again. 5 years later, my daughter said the exact same thing. "I'm bored," in that same snotty tone. And so I said, "Oh," and my son started laughing because he remembered what I did with him. Sure enough, she never said she was born again either. Don't try and manipulate this mother. Yeah, they never said that again. Oh, shoot. There we go. Okay. Yeah, 16 months old biting. That's just going to happen. They get mad and they start to bite and hit and spit and pinch and all that sort of stuff. You just restrain them from doing that. You know what's going to happen, so just hold them. And they're going to kick up a fit. That's okay. That's okay. Then you redirect. At 16 months old, still kind of almost a baby. I would maybe just redirect and then maybe sit and start. If you're holding them kicking and screaming in one hand, I might pull out one of their books and just start reading out loud to myself. Don't talk to them. Don't look at them. Just let them. And then eventually they'll think, well, this isn't working. They'll just get bored with it and they'll get more interested in what you're doing. It's not the reward system. You're not saying, here's some candy if you stop doing that. That's the reward system. This is redirecting or diverting. Sort of diversion, but you're not doing it with like candy. By the way, diversion is one of my least favorite parenting discipline methods. That's really common. It's because you never divert with broccoli. It's always done with candy. When they're doing something bad, you never divert them with something good. But if you're just reading a book, it's redirecting. It's not like you're rewarding them. You just happen to be reading a book. They can sit in your lap and join in or not. That's their choice. They're still a baby at that age. Okay, tips for throwing and putting hands on food and smearing. Yeah, the messy meal time. So what I did with my kids is they both went through that stage. That's all normal, right? So you just say no, like a really quick, just no big deal. You don't go no. It's just like no. And whatever they're playing with, you take it away. Do not let them have food, and then you start hand feeding them. They can go one meal without any food. They might just go like that and not have it, but then they might need a snack later on. But yeah, they will soon learn, wait a minute, if I do this, they just put it together because they want to feed themselves. They want to. It's funny because I didn't mind my kids putting spaghetti on their head, and I'm a real fuss fart. I'm really anal with cleaning. And my ex-husband, my husband at the time wasn't at all, but he hated the kids getting all messy when they were eating, but that's part of the fun, right? Like, oh geez, I hated that all spaghetti. They often had to have a bath after they were finished eating, but that's part of the fun. But yeah, if they were throwing it on the floor or something like that, I would hand feed them. They'll learn. I'm new here. Do you recommend ignoring tantrums? Yeah, absolutely. You don't comfort them through a tantrum. A comfort, any attention is food for a tantrum. You're right there, though. You don't walk away from them. You don't talk on your phone or talk to someone else. You're right there. You're just waiting it out. That's all you're doing. They can try and climb on you. Don't pick them up. Yeah, don't pick them up. Just let them keep crying on. As soon as they calm down, then you can sort of redirect and go somewhere else. You never soothe that after a tantrum either. I've done this hundreds of times. Oh God, thousands of times. It just works. The better you get at ignoring tantrums, it decreases in duration, intensity, and frequency. It just does. There's no need to reward a tantrum with attention. There's just no need. But you don't want to make them feel abandoned. That's why you stay right there. They know you're right there and they can't figure out. If they're new to you, like they don't know this kind of technique, they're going to up it. They're going to get louder because they're used to you rewarding it. I expected the meal mess, diaper only, so they have free. Yeah, it's just, wasn't it awful? Just, especially spaghetti. I don't know why. I just have I just remember noodles across the head, and like they have meat in their eyes. I mean, it was just everywhere. It's so gross. 3-year-old using foul words. Just put no bad words on the behavior board. The behavior board's in the link above. Put no bad words, and every time they do, there's a consequence. So make it a rule with a consequence. Keep it simple. It's just straightforward. Okay, foul word. You're not supposed to say that. So let's go to the behavior board. Always go back to the behavior board. It gives it a lot of weight. And I always tell parents this too. It kind of takes the onus off of you. Blame the behavior board. It's happening. That's law. What's the difference between a tantrum and being upset? You'll know. A tantrum is a complete loss of control. They usually arch their back, throw themselves back, turns red. If they're just upset, yeah. You'll know. And I call them all the same: a tantrum, a scene, a fit. And then I'll get parents on here, well, they're completely different. Whatever. You know what I'm saying. It's when they've completely lost it. No matter what you do, you can't pull them out of it. Like there would nothing you could do could pull them out of that. That's a tantrum. They have lost their nut during a tantrum. But if they're just upset, you could easily distract them. What about a toddler resisting everything, diaper change, getting dressed? Well, you got to exercise your leadership here. My kids would squirm more with their dad for sure. I was definitely the leader. And they would squirm. He was a great dad, but I was the leader. So when he was trying to change them as they started getting older, they would definitely, they do the twisting and all that stuff. They didn't do that with me very often. I would just put my arm right across their chest and hold their legs, and I'd just say, it's happening. And I had that diaper on so fast. They just learned. They just learned. They weren't upset by it. They learned very quickly, and mom was in charge. So you can do that. And it was all like, it was no big deal. No anger. There's never any anger. If you have anger when you're disciplining, you're doing it wrong. No, let me rephrase that. You may have anger, but if you show any anger when you're disciplining, you're doing it wrong. That's not leadership. Leaders don't show anger or emotions when they're disciplining. It's just like a business transaction. So that's why I said, it's happening. So the kids knew when I used that tone of voice, it's happening. They learned really quickly. My daughter would rub all meals on her face, and my dad hated it, and I sent pictures all the time. Good for you. That's what you're supposed to do to grandparents, right? Okay, good question. I'm glad you asked that because I said I was the leader. Okay, it's from Jalisa. Is that your name? Anyway, uh, my name's Lisa, but without the ja in front of it. How would you encourage your kids to look at your spouse as the leader too? They'll never really look at the other one as a leader. A good example of this is my mom and dad. My mom was the leader for sure. It just took mom's look. Whereas if I tried to push my dad around, my mom was anywhere near, her look was it. But also as they get older, you sort of more lean towards the leader. You don't tend to push anyone around because you admire that leader more. You love them both the same. Like I adored my father. He was great. But my mom was the one I was trying to please. Okay. So with my ex-husband, I remember once this happened one day, he was out with our son alone. And my son had a tantrum in front of his family, and it was really humiliating. And he came home and he says, oh, I could have killed him. What should I have done? And I said, next time, here's what you say. Every other time that happens, just say, he was probably about 3, just say, do you want me to tell mom? That's all it took. So the dad was not the leader. He was not the leader, but we were in cahoots. Okay. He was riding off my leadership. He's a great dad, but he just didn't like the disciplining, whereas I love it. To me, it's leadership. It's great. I see it all as a positive, and I was strong at it. I was good at it. Just came naturally to me. And it didn't with him. And I didn't want him messing up the kids anyway. I wanted everything to defer to me. So then they just got to the point, they didn't push him around anymore either. But yeah, do you want me to tell mom? And then it got to the point where he did something that they knew I wouldn't do. Like I let him be the treat master. That was his role. We used to call him the treat master. So if I said, look, no treats today because of this or something, and then he'd get them, don't tell mom. And he'd do it sort of on purpose. They couldn't wait to get home and they, mommy, guess what daddy let us do? They couldn't wait to tattle on him. And sometimes they'd even say, no, mom wouldn't like that. So they were good wherever they went. And then I used to get kind of frustrated with this because lots of people would say, oh my God, you got the easiest kids in the world. A teacher never said that. They understood I put the work in. But whenever they'd say, oh, you're so lucky you got the easiest kids in the world. They're so polite. And I thought, yeah, as if that's luck. I put the work in. I earned that. But once you get respect, maintaining it is a piece of cake. Getting it is hard. It's hard work. I got it when they were little, so it wasn't. But the older they get, like once they're 3, they find their power. So 3 is a real turnaround time. You really want to start getting them respect at 3. I have a whole course on that if you're interested. Anyway, and you can always get it, but the older they get, the harder it gets because they've already found and exercised their power for years. Sometimes I'll get parents of teenagers and they'll hire me for one behavior they want to get rid of. They got a 17-year-old. I said, well, we can't work on that now. We'll work on that maybe in week 3. And the parents are usually quite disappointed. And I say, we have to build up your communication skills with them first. Build up your bond, your relationship with them first. Then we can start talking about addressing behavior that you don't like. Can you be a leader without physical discipline? Well, you have to be physical sometimes with little ones because it's consistent corrective actions. You take a toy away, you remove them from a fun thing. But you mean like hitting? No, you don't have to do that. That's not what it's about. It's leadership, right? Leadership isn't hitting. So physical is consistent corrective actions with little ones, but you're removing them, removing the other, there's an action, but it's never hitting. Is that what you mean? I don't know what you mean. Okay. And if you have a toddler, check out that latest video I did. It's my favorite video I've done in a really long time, and it hasn't picked up. The ones that I love never pick up, never. The ones that I think, well, this is crap, they go to like a millions. I don't know why that is. I can't figure it out. But that one, I'm going to feed off of that one though, because it was one of my best videos I ever did. From my perspective, you may not like it, but from my perspective, the message in there was one of the best I've ever given for toddlers. Can you be, oh, sorry, I already read that one. Hi, Kelsey. You are a regular. You are so awesome. Thanks for, oh, I'll read that again. You are so, no, thanks so much for your support. That's why I keep turning up. And I get emails supporting me on here because this is my free content. My behavior board and this is all my free content. Don't email me questions. I don't have time to coach you on email. You know, this is my free content. And then my behavior board, which is up in the link above there. I love what I do. I still get emails from people wanting to come under my umbrella and do what I do. And then no one ever continues after I tell them this. I say, you got to have two things under your belt first. You have to have finished the job with your own kids. You can't teach parenting if you haven't raised teenagers into young adults. You just can't. If you haven't lived with teenagers. Also, you have to, I didn't learn much with my own kids. I got respect when they were tiny and sailed right through the teen years. So you have to have had experience with hundreds of other kids with every single thing you could think of. ADHD, WXYZ, physically, mentally handicapped, drug addicts, you know, suicidal, everything. You have to have had just this wealth of information and experience working with all these kids, because that's what it takes. No one's ever come back at me. One person. If they had all that experience, they wouldn't be coming to me, would they? But that's, and the reason I told you that is if you're going to take advice from someone, make sure they have those two criteria under their belt, because this is serious business. What is really trendy right now is just what I'm erasing all the time. It's this please your parents stuff. You are raising self-entitled snowflakes who have mental health issues. That's where you could potentially be heading. The old-fashioned authority parent, I don't like that either. I teach leadership. It's nowhere, it's not like either one. The old-fashioned authority parent is my way or the highway. You do what I say. They tend to get rebellious teenagers, but the pleaser parent gets teenagers who wipe their feet all over you. But the authority figure tends to get rebellious teenagers who grow up and say, thanks for being tough on me, I appreciate it. And they tend to be more resilient and tougher and more independent with less mental health issues. So if you're going to err on either side, do the authority. I teach the leader. It's completely different. You're best friends, you're fun, but boy, you know how to correct the wrongs. And but also you're accountable too. Like when I did something wrong, my kids would come to me, Mom, I didn't like what you said the other day. Sorry, what do you want? You know, what do you want? And they loved it when I messed up, because they'd end up going to the water slide park or something. As soon as I'd mess up and say or do something I knew, they would look at each other like this, because they knew they were in control. They knew I was going to be accountable. So. Yeah, my mom and I always had open communication no matter what age. You want to be a safe place to land, and listening is the #1 skill in any age with parenting past the age of 3, once they've got their verbal stuff going on, communication skills. Anyway, the reason why listening is so important is because when they're teenagers, they're going to tell you everything. And listen to understand and show empathy. Don't listen to gather information to lecture with. They will shut you out, guaranteed. Guaranteed when they're teenagers. Oh, cute. I watch your TikTok lives and rewatch them on YouTube. Great content and information. Thanks. Wow. I tried to watch one of my lives once. I lasted like 30 seconds. It's agony watching yourself. Agony. I always think, oh, I should have said that. I should. But you know, if you worry about the mistake, I'm not perfect. Nobody is. If you worry about the mistakes you make, you're never going to do anything. How to ignore tantrums when they're physical? Well, I always say the same thing. You ignore tantrums, but if they get violent, then you restrain them. But you still ignore them. You just hold them to restrain them from hurting themselves, hurting other people or animals, or causing any damage with property. So you're just holding them like this. You're not looking at them or talking to them. You're just restraining them. They're going to go nuts, but that's okay. Remember, the bigger the scene, the bigger the lesson. Okay, what did a day look like? Good question. No one's ever asked me this. What did a day look like for you when your kids were younger? Playtime versus housework balance. Okay, I'm a compulsive cleaner, but also I maintain clean. I never clean dirty. So I didn't have to do much cleaning. I always seem to have a wet rag in my hand, rubbing, cleaning everything. But I was an early riser. I usually did all the housework before anyone got up, and I never clean in front of people. I'm a closet cleaner. So the housework was always just done. So I never had to worry about that. Plus, I did a toy rotation system, and I'm very organized. I don't like clutter, so there wasn't anything out to make a mess with. Okay, does that make any sense? I'm more into the prevention with all that stuff. So, like I always say, I maintain clean. I don't clean dirty. So, but my kids, we had a lot of activity time. Like I'd say, okay, now we're going to get out the Lego. Let's get that out. Let's get that. So I sort of was always sort of the leader with all that stuff. Like, okay, we're going to go to the park later on. So make sure have you done all your chores, and then we'll head out. As soon as you've done your chores, then you can do this. So I was never really telling them what to do, but I always had something fun planned. And then that kind of, they were all like, oh, okay. So I'd say, tell you what we're going to do. And they'd be like that. So I was always trying to be sort of fun. I was the goofy mom. I was fun. And I enjoyed them. By the way, you've got to meet their needs and manage their wants. Their needs are fun, connection with you. You don't take your kids to the park and watch them swing. You get on a swing with them. You don't lay out all the legs. Sometimes, I didn't always do that, but you got to enter their world as much as possible. That's why I like that video with the toddler one so much, because you want to enter their world as much as possible. The more you're a part of their world, the more they look up to you, the more they respect you, and the more they listen to you. You've become part of their world. And that's the utmost in talk about high self-esteem. When they've got parents who sit on the floor and play with them and have a blast with them, self-esteem goes up. Don't they want to please that kind of parent too? There's a lot of power in that. So yeah, I was a stay-at-home mom. I was very lucky in that way. I was a stay-at-home mom. And also we went to the gym every morning, weekday morning, and they went into daycare there when they were little. So that was their social life. And then afterwards we went out, we did all the grocery shopping, then we went home, had lunch, and then it was just playtime or whatever. 8-year-old talks back so much, please help. That's learned behavior. You've taught them to do that by accepting that, by not being a leader. Work on your leadership skills. I don't teach kidding. I don't fix kids. I teach parents. You set up your leadership skills, they'll never talk back. My kids, I would have been stunned if they talk back to me. I would have gone, what? Like, what are you doing? Like, I would have been stunned if they were cheeky, because why would they be? There's no payoff for it. My mom had mom's look. I had mom's look. That's all we ever had to do, really. But my mom's look was priceless. If she was sitting down, it was like this. If she was standing up, she'd go, what are you talking about? Like, she didn't take any crap. She didn't do that enough. She let me get away with a lot more than I let my kids get away with. But when she did speak, I respected her. Okay, becoming a part of their world. Mom gave me everything but didn't spend time. Yeah, a lot of parents say, and I say, you got to spend time with your kids, but they often don't let me finish. When I'm coaching, they often don't let me finish. I do. I'm with them all day. I do this, and I say, no, let me finish. Spend time in their world. And they go, what do you mean? I said, when they're playing on the floor, get on the floor. Play with them. Let them teach you how to play with their toys too. I used to do, some of this stuff's embarrassing. I'm really silly. Like I do really silly things. What can I do? Okay, I'll tell you some of the less silly stuff. Well, one of the things I used to do, and I talk about all the time, is every single day I did laundry. And when I was sorting it, I put all the underpants on my head, and the leg holes were my eye holes. And I'd say, panty monster's getting ready, and the kids would start screaming and yelling, and I'd chase them around the house as the panty monster. So how do you think kids feel about themselves when they got a parent doing stuff like that? How do you think they feel? That's why they wouldn't be rude to me, because I was fun. I was in their world. But if they had done anything I didn't like, those underpants would have come off, because I was mom first. I was friend second, mom first. I'd say, excuse me? And they would, oh, sorry, mom. They would have been embarrassed to be rude, disrespectful to a fun mom who knows how to discipline. You meet their needs and manage their wants. Fun is a big part of it, but have fun in their world. You find your inner 5-year-old or your inner toddler. Do not expect your child to find their inner adult. Don't bond with your 3-year-old at the nail salon. Go to the park and roll down the hill with her. You see the difference there? Enter their world. That's where you get the connection going. That's where the magic happens. It's not taking them to a water slide park and watching them go down the slide. I just about push my kids out of the way to get down there first. I have a lot of little kid in me. So, but yeah, you want to do stuff with them. I'm going to tell you a funny story. My son he was a real cautious little boy. He didn't do anything. He never hurt himself. He was very cautious. He didn't want to go down this slide. We were at this water slide park, and it was for toddlers. He was about 1.5, maybe 2. He didn't want to go down the slide because it wound, and he was really scared of it. And it had water going down it. So his dad was at the top, and I was getting fed up with this. I thought he's old enough to be thrown down the slide. He was in full bodysuit because in Australia, where we live, they have to wear full sun. I made all their clothes. He had a full sunsuit on and everything. And but he was slicked up with tons of sunscreen because it's Australia. So he still had sunscreen anywhere that was potentially exposed. So I said to my husband at the time, I said, chuck him down. My son was like this. So when he started coming down, I caught a glimpse of his face as he's coming down. Each curve, he was like this. Absolute horror. He was so scared. And so when I went to catch him at the bottom, I was laughing too hard, and he went right through my hands and went flying into the water. That was his biggest fear, was going into the water. So he went right under the water. I could barely pick him up, and then he ended up laughing with me at the end. But it was so much fun. Yeah, get in their world, have fun with them. But yeah, as soon as I said chuck him down, he knew he was going down. Okay, I actually have to get going. I got stuff to do. And anyway, thanks so much for watching me. Go on the link above. It's everything I've got to offer is on there, from free to not free. So check that all out. And my latest video, if you have a toddler, it's my favorite video I've done on toddlers. I'm going to feed off of it, though, and do more videos like that because there's a message in there. It's all about entering their world. That's the part that's so important. Anyway, have a great day, and we'll talk again tomorrow. Bye now.